What we heard from Felipe from Renature earlier is some of the great benefits when it comes to healthy soils, above and below ground biodiversity, and all sorts of benefits for nature and regenerating nature. But what about for the farmers and the farmer communities, their livelihoods? I know you have lots of programs working directly with them. What kind of benefits can regenerative production bring the farmers themselves?
So look, we're in complete agreement about how the end game looks like and where we want to go. But the transition is not going to be easy. And this whole notion of a just transition for these fragile farming communities we're dealing with is going to be a major piece. So there's fresh investment needed. There is additional training needed, know-how. And frankly, for some crops, you will also see probably an initial dip when it comes to yields before things turn better. And so the farming community for many crops is the weakest link when it comes to the supply chain, financially speaking. They're the most exposed. I think Nestle has 150 years of experience in dealing with fragile agricultural communities around the world and being a long-term reliable partner. And so we know that we have to help these communities to go through that change so that together we can get where we want to go.
So, Mark, we spoke a bit about the benefits for nature when it comes to applying regenerative production practices. But then there's also the core premise of food, which is delivering nutrition to people, everyone around the world. And often these two worlds are seen as separate: planetary health and human health. And sometimes people perceive there's actually tension or trade-offs between them. How do you see that dynamic? Are there trade-offs?
I don't think there are trade-offs. I think these two are mutually reinforcing each other. So we believe in two key strategic planks at our company, and I could summarize it high level with good for you, good for the planet. So good for you is nutritious food that is conducive to your health, and good for the planet is good sustainability practices and regenerative practices that make sure we're not strip mining the planet. The two are really reinforcing each other. Just think about plant-based proteins. In our Western diets, we're so over-indexed on animal proteins. So bringing that down has vast public health benefits. And at the same time, it reduces the environmental footprint of producing those proteins.
So I wanted to hear from you, and companies like Unilever and other food manufacturers and retailers, what can they do to help actually build rather than deplete biodiversity through their very products and supply chains?
I think a really important start point is that biodiversity will be driven in the end by more diverse consumption. Today, you all know it, but just 4 crops, wheat, rice, corn, potatoes, account for about 60% of the calories we all consume globally. So if we, as big foods players, don't change what people eat, we're not going to create a shift to the more diverse demand that the planet needs. So that's what we've also at Unilever been focusing on: education. So last year, together with the WWF, we released the Knorr Future 50 Foods report. And that is a really interesting report that identifies 50 diverse foods that we should eat more of in order to increase biodiversity. If we want more diversity, more crop diversification, we need to eat more new foods. So at a very practical level, Knorr now offers swaps in its products and recipes. So things like using lentils instead of beef in a bolognese, or quinoa for rice in a curry, or sweet potatoes instead of potatoes.